Death Battle has been sponsored by both Warcraft and Prime Video before, so how do I know who they're biased towards this time? Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. And next time on Death Battle, after Jason versus Michael, we have Sauron from Lord of the Rings versus Arthas the Lich King from World of Warcraft. Now, we knew that Sauron was coming to Death Battle Season 9. He was one of the teased combatants for the second half, like Black Adam and Trunks, and it seemed like a lot of people did want to see him fight Lich King, so thankfully most people are getting their wish. I thought there was a slight possibility that Sauron may have ended up fighting Voldemort instead, not because I think Voldemort is Sauron's best opponent by any stretch, just from a sheer popularity perspective it made sense to me. But we are indeed getting Sauron versus Lich King, and I personally am happy for it. These are two never-before-used franchises that fit into styles of movies and games that Death Battle hasn't really touched on too much before, which is cool, and I do think this fight works pretty well and could be a lot of fun. So yeah, nothing really to complain about here. So I think first it's a good idea to just go over their powers and abilities and whatnot, because there's a lot of complicated stuff that comes afterwards. And this is also assuming that Sauron does indeed get the One Ring for this fight, based on what Death Battle has included for other characters in the past, and based on the connective tissue between Sauron and the Lich King. I think it just makes a lot more sense that they would include it, so just wanted to get it out of the way. But yeah, both of these characters possess some very strong abilities that are pretty common in the fantasy genre, including flight, elemental manipulation, mental and soul manipulation, regeneration, necromancy, transmutation, invisibility, illusion creation, enhanced physical awareness, and significantly more. They also have their fair share of unique powers. For instance, Sauron has intangibility, shape-shifting in at least one of his bodies, because he's had multiple bodies throughout his run, which we'll talk a little bit about more later, size changing, metal manipulation, and even self-resurrection given enough time. And when it comes to the Lich King, he of course has Frostmourne, his iconic sword, and with that, his own powers and various spells he's learned. He can use energy projection, telekinesis, teleportation, force fields, limited reality warping, magical defenses and absorption, curse infliction, and can manipulate darkness, plant life, sound, electricity, and even more. So if we're just looking at their respective arsenals and trying to determine who has the better abilities, I would lean more towards Lich King. While I think each character has their own stronger abilities when compared to each other, it seems to me that Arthas is just generally more versatile and could provide more counters and be harder to predict and harder to defend against. However, while both of the characters have a lot of magical potential, I would definitely say that Sauron has the overall advantage when it comes to experience. There seem to be some people out there who think that Sauron doesn't have a lot of good fighting showcases or capabilities, but that's really not true at all if you look at all of the confirmed lore for him. In actuality, both Sauron and Lich King have fought a wide variety of opponents, but the difference is that Sauron has been doing so for thousands upon thousands of years, whereas Arthas was only a little over 30 when he died. And because of that, I would also say that Sauron is generally the smarter strategist of the two, especially given his reputation. But now that that's all out of the way, let me try my very best for estimating their stats. Now, Sauron's a bit complicated because he's gone through a number of different states or phases or bodies throughout the ages that have either increased or decreased his strength and speed by varying degrees. Personally, I highly doubt that Death Battle is going to be including his crazy powerful true form in this episode, because that was specifically from before he was corrupted, and it's not like a power-up he can just grant himself at any given moment. But other than that, I think it's fair to say that Death Battle is going to be using Sauron's best capabilities. So Sauron, under his own power, should definitely fall between the small country or multi-continental range, just based on his own feats like shaking Mordor with his magic, and the characters that he should realistically scale above, like the Balrogs and the White Council. But with the One Ring, he was also able to shatter a sword that contained the power of a Silmaril, and a Silmaril is supposed to contain the power of an untold number of stars. Sauron should also naturally be more powerful than Karkaroth, who was able to contain a Silmaril under its own power as well, so that helps justify the scaling too. Sauron is also known as a Maya, which is a spiritual being that was created by the Valar way back when to assist them in shaping the physical world. And there was a possible implication in one of the texts texts that the strongest Maya is as strong as the Valar themselves. And Sauron is certainly one of the more powerful ones. I mean, hell, even Gandalf the White stated that he was more powerful than him. But even with that, there really doesn't seem to be any concrete proof that Sauron could match one of those higher beings in a one-on-one combat scenario, aside from one flimsy statement, you know? But still, it's in the text, so I figured I'd bring it up anyway. And if we again want to compare Sauron to characters that we know are physically less impressive, then he should be capable of fighting at faster than light speeds, possibly even greater. So of course, the question now becomes whether or not the Lich King is powerful and or fast enough to keep up with Sauron, or ideally overpower him, as Sauron's experience would make him well suited against an equal in power. When it comes to speed, I would definitely put Lich King at least around Sauron's level, as he can outpace characters quick enough to dodge supposedly light speed spells, but either way, I see magical potency being a way bigger factor in this fight. Like Sauron, Lich King, or Arthas more specifically, has gone through different phases, but they're definitely going to be looking at his Lich King state, aka his most powerful state, and in this state he is capable, or he should be stronger than characters like Malygos and Archimonde, who can destroy multiple planets, putting him at planet level or planet level plus right off the bat. But even more impressively, he was able to defeat all of the heroes of Azeroth on his own, and they were able to defeat Cthulhu, one of the primordial old gods of World of Warcraft, and therefore one of the strongest beings around. But they were also able to defeat Freya, who created the Emerald Dream, which is confirmed to be fourth dimension space, and they defeated Yogg-Saron, who was able to mentally enslave Freya. So if Lich King proved to be a bigger challenge for these heroes than all of these crazy entities, that's definitely saying something. Now, of course, Death Battle and I may not buy all of the same things for both of these characters, and that's perfectly fine, but going off of this current basis, it really seems to me like this fight is going to be judged by how lenient Death Battle is when it comes to Lord of the Rings scaling and capabilities. Because if we can prove, or if we can argue, that Sauron is even just on par with Lich King's strength and durability, then I think there's a really good case to be made for Sauron winning, given his ridiculous levels of experience, and then backed up by his own abilities and intelligence. However, with that said, it really seems like the only way that we can argue something like that is, one, if we can prove that Sauron can indeed compare to the Valar, and two, prove that the Valar can rise above the characters that the Lich King is pretty definitely above in terms of power. Well, again, not only is there no real proof that Sauron could stand up to the Valar in combat aside from possibly one line of text, again, as far as I'm aware, but it's also pretty well established that the Valar did not create the Lord of the Rings universe. They definitely assisted in shaping the Earth and also other celestial bodies like the sun and the moon, likely way more than that, but it was Eru Ilúvatar who was responsible for the universe's creation. So if you want to put Sauron at the multi-star or solar system level based on the Silmarils, then I definitely think that's fair. If you want to put him even a little higher than that, I also think that's fair. But if you're trying to put him way higher than that, I feel like that requires a lot of different assumptions, and a lot of which I don't find perfectly reliable. Maybe Death Battle will completely disagree with that, but that's just me being skeptical. The Lich King, on the other hand, has greater potential scaling that we can assign to him with much less leniency involved. Sure, he may not be able to do every single thing that the strongest characters in World of Warcraft can do, but just the fact that he proved to be a stronger challenge than a creator of a fourth dimensional space, and even a god even by that kind of standard, means that it's really hard to justify him not being at least close to that kind of ridiculous level. Now, I do have a confession to make. I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to these two franchises in terms of their cosmology, so I can't say that one character would beat another character for that reason alone, or if that's even fair to say in any sense, but going on the safe side and assuming that the franchises are at least similar in terms of size and scope, like the universes or multiverses or whatever, then I do think there is a better argument to be made for Lich King reaching higher levels of strength and durability, and him also having a more diverse arsenal, as we discussed earlier. If Death Battle does conclude that these two are pretty even in terms of stats for one reason or another, then I could absolutely see Sauron winning, just based on his crazy long history and experience, but going going off of what I know and what I believe, since that's really the best that I got, I would not say that Sauron's experience alone is likely enough to save him here. Yes, he does have his regeneration and his resurrection, but Death Battle typically doesn't use that as a deciding factor if one, it's not an instant regeneration, which for the most part it isn't, and two, if it's not supporting evidence on top of a greater combat advantage. And that's assuming that Lich King has absolutely no way to nullify it in the first place anyway. So if you feel differently, that's perfectly fine and I totally understand, but for the time being, I'm going with Lich King. So guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, comment your comments down below, subscribe if you could too, that would be amazing. If you want to watch more of my videos, you can just click around the screen about now, or if you just want to go to my channel and browse how you like, that's fine too. But either way, I'm very excited for this fight. I'm really happy that we're getting more of these kinds of characters on the show. But yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.